Triple EDC here, back again with another knife video. This is the Benchmade Infidel, the Heretic Manticore X, and the Microtech Ultratech. These are all out the front automatics, and I just wanted to do a quick video comparing them since I didn't see a lot of other stuff online doing the same. But the Microtech Ultratech has been the standard for many years with good reason. It's excellent quality, and it just is a really good size, really easy to deploy, and the blade is just an excellent size as well. This is the dual edge version, stonewash with a stonewash blade. It's going to have a glass breaker on the end. It's a larger glass breaker, and that's going to come into play a little bit later. You have the deep carry pocket clip, and you see it is pretty deep carry, but you're going to have this glass breaker sticking up. So it's going to be very apparent that you've got a Microtech Ultratech, which is a really recognizable knife, in your pocket. The Heretic Manticore X, this is also aluminum, and both I would say this has more of a chalky texture. The aluminum, kind of akin to the Benchmade 940, whereas the texture on this is also, while also being aluminum, is a lot smoother. And just to give you an idea real quick, on the Benchmade Infidel, you're going to get a chalky texture just like the 940 and the Heretic Manticore X, but you're going to have some differences as well, which I'll point out when I get to this one later. Now, this is also a dual edge, but this is a one edge serrated. And I believe this is Marfion's son who does this, the guy who does Microtech Ultratech. His son does Heretic Manticore X and Heretic Knives. This is going to have pocket clip that rides up to about here, so you're going to have this sticking up. You've got a glass breaker, a tiny glass breaker on the end, but the lanyard hole and the glass breaker are both going to be sticking out of your pocket. That being said, this is not going to necessarily be recognizable to most people as an automatic or an out the front, just from the fact that it's in your pocket. This is the Benchmade Infidel, and like I said, chalky aluminum texture. This has a very nice deep carry pocket clip. Probably the best deep carry pocket clip out of all of these if you're trying to conceal, because there's no glass breaker on the end here. And it is deep carry. However, you've got this billboarding. So anyone who knows what an Infidel is going to know that you're carrying an automatic knife. It also is a little bothersome because, you know, Infidel is one of those things that, while it's a cool name for a knife, is not necessarily, you know, the best thing to have in your pocket when you're, or visible on the outside of your pocket when you're in the office or wherever else you might be. So in any event, the main differences between these two and this one are obviously the body shape. The body shape is very different. Here you've got some curvature for some ergonomics, which we'll talk about in a little bit. You've got mostly straight here, but there are some curves a little bit for ergonomics. And here you've basically got a kink up here, and then a straight line here, and that's the ergonomics on this. So anyway, and I forgot to highlight, this is also a dagger blade as well, dual edge. So these are mostly an apples to apples comparison, dagger, 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 and the only difference is really this one's fully serrated on one edge. So let's talk first about the size of the blades, sizes of the blades, I should say. And you can see they're really in descending order of the sizes here. So you get about 4 inches, about 3.75, and about 3.5. I don't have the exact measurements, so, I mean, look them up online if you need them. But for the most part, you can see I have a large size hand, and this does fit very well in the large size hand, even is outside of it a little bit. And here you've got plenty of room to actually hold the actuator button as a point of, as sort of a thumb rest with jimping on it, and still have a full grip on the rest of the knife. But then again, you're going to have some space here. Just be aware of that until you get to the blade. On here, you know, you want to hold it like this when you're deploying it, and then you can either turn it and have your finger here, and there's some jimping there, it's recessed jimping, to really get a good grip on it. But really, I like the grip here, right? And so if you're going to have it be there, I think it's a much better grip. Well, I actually like it like this. The grip here is where you're going to get a lot of your grip from, and then this one curve right here that just locks your thumb in is really where you're going to get most of your grip. So what are some of the differences between the ergonomics on this? I actually think the ergonomics on the Manticore X, while they're the most comfortable I think they're probably the most comfortable for deploying and retracting the knife, probably even more so than the Ultratech. Yeah, I think they are. And yeah, even more so than the Infidel. So the Manticore X probably has the best ergonomics in the deploy position, but in the user position, I actually think it's a little bit unwieldy, except for stabbing. Stabbing, it works pretty good. Cuts going up using the serrated edge, those feel fine. But it's really the down cuts. I feel like I have to pull my hand up, and then there's nothing here stopping my hand from running out onto the blade. And for something that's meant to stab, you want to put your hand back here so that you can feel like it's locked in and not going to go anywhere. And it just feels like you're a little far from the front. With the Microtech Ultratech, the blade's a little shorter, so it feels a little less unwieldy. And by the way, guys, if you watch my channel, I really like longer or larger knives. So, the fact that I'm saying I sort of prefer the shorter one a little bit is something to really listen to. So this is a lot easier for EDC type tasks. So if you're planning on carrying this in a military application, I'm not really going to speak on that. I'm not really qualified to speak on that. But as far as for EDC, if you're going to be carrying it out the front, the Microtech Ultratech is really sort of it's a better choice for sort of the everyday thing. That being said, I don't really love the ergonomics on it. It feels like it's too far up my hand in this position, and then over here, like I said, it feels like you're getting, dangerously close to, to being pushed off the edge. That being said, unlike on the Manticore X, where you have some really light jimping that is pretty rounded, here you have much more aggressive jimping on the end, so you do feel a little bit more secure on the Ultratech than you do on the Manticore Heretic X, or Heretic Manticore X, I should say. All right, on the Benchmade Infidel, because it's comfortable in this position and this position, and you sort of want to be in this position anyway for the actuating the button, I really like the fact that this is that this works in this position, because when it allows for sort of a hammer grip when you're using the blade in a non-stabbing capacity, when you're using it to cut. And so it's a little bit more comfortable for just everyday EDC cutting. But it is still a 4-inch blade, so that's just something to keep in mind as well. There is a mini version of this, obviously, the Mini Infidel. I haven't handled one, but I assume the ergonomics are slightly different based on a smaller handle size. Some other things to keep in mind are, look at the handle sizes relative to the deployed blade. So this is pretty efficient. This is probably the most efficient as far as, the blade to handle ratio. But the Heretic Manticore X, it feels like this is a very long handle for a small blade. And so that's one of the other things to keep in mind when you're dealing with it. Now, when it comes to automatics, let's be real. You want to open and close them all day long. That's what one of the reasons we're buying them is so that we can have that, you know, fun back and forth retracting, deployment and retraction. So, what is the most fun to deploy? Well, the truth is they're all fun to deploy. They're fun in different ways. The Ultratech is the hardest firing, but it has the most aggressive jimping, so it'll tear up your thumb if you're sitting here playing with it all day. It also has some of the most resistance, which is one of the reasons it's harder firing. This one has a lot less aggressive jimping, and you can see it's even smooth on this side. Most of the jimping is on this side, but it does have some, see if we can focus. I think you can see some of the grip on there, so it does grip it a little bit. But this one still feels like it fires hard. But you'll also get a little bit of a, so this one is free of, I guess, cheap sounds. It just feels and sounds like quality. This one feels like quality. It sounds like quality, but, and I'm not, this is not a knock on quality, because this is really actually very high quality. But if you listen closely, you can actually hear when it retracts that there's like this metal ping, sort of like you hear the lightning out the fronts. So let me see if I can put it up next to the microphone here, and I'll stop talking and see if you can hear it. I'm not sure if that came through on the video, but trust me, it's there, and you sort of feel a little bit of it in the back of your hand when it retracts. So you don't have that with either the Infidel or the Ultratech. So it's just something to keep in mind. So let's talk about tension on the, well, before I do that, actually, I talked about the jimping on these. The jimping on this, I mean, you've got aggressive jimping for the grip here. You've got aggressive jimping for grip on the actuator button, but these are all spaced far enough apart that it doesn't bother me at all. So, and they're rounded off enough that it doesn't bother me. So that's that. As far as, so let's talk about one last thing here. I believe this is the last thing, is how easy these are, or hard, to fire. Now, if you've ever held like a Microtech Cypher or a Combat Trudon, you may recall that the first time you ever deployed it, it might have taken more force than you thought it was going to need to take. So I will tell you that the Benchmade Infidel is by far the easiest to deploy. It goes up and down without much force, you know, and it fires when you get to the end of the track, right? And the fact that I can do that with my pointer when I'm sort of just not even holding it that hard tells you it's actually pretty easy to actuate, right? So this one is, see, now I have to, on this one I didn't even really have to grip the knife that hard. See, I'm only gripping it with a light grip. On this one, I'm gonna need to grip it much harder to make sure this doesn't pop out of my hands when I'm pushing this up with my pointer. And on this one, I'm kind of gripping that the tightest. So if I had to rank these in how much force or energy is needed to deploy it, I'd probably create a spectrum here and rank it somewhere along the lines of here. So you can see that this takes the most force, obviously less than, let's say, a Microtech Cypher, but this takes the next most force and this takes the least force, but there's a wider gap between these two than there are between these two. I hope that's helpful. Okay, so I think that's it for my comparison here. I'm probably forgetting something, but I can always do a follow-up video. If you like this video, if you like my channel, go ahead and subscribe, do a hit the notification bell, and go ahead and like this video and leave a comment. Let me know what you think, or if there's any videos or comparisons you want to see. Thanks so much. Bye.